The Rey Movie situation is a big deal. Star Wars reeling the internet on fire. What if we told you, though, that there is a far bigger issue waiting for Disney and Star Wars, one that could seriously cause them a PR nightmare, and nobody is yet talking about it? Guess what, folks? We will. Spiciest video ever for this channel on the way. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the WDW Pro channel, where we talk about things that matter, especially when those things that matter intersect with entertainment. Keep you ahead of the culture curve in doing so, and helping us do that today, we have Culture Casino, Michelle of Force of Light, and the Script Doctor, all in the house, ready to give a prescription for Disney's woes that are upcoming. Welcome to you all.
Yes, good to be here.
Now, let's dive straight into this spicy material. Folks, the Rey movie, that's what everybody's talking about. Either that or Taylor Swift didn't laugh at the joke at the Golden Globes last night. Who knows? I don't think we'll talk about the Golden Globes. Maybe in the Pro Show we'll talk about ratings. But there is something on the horizon, or perhaps it's at their doorstep. Perhaps it just crossed the threshold that Disney has a real major problem. And it is, of course, related to Kathleen Kennedy, Star Wars, Leslie Headland, and here's why. In the past, we haven't been able to talk about this on YouTube. We can now, so we'll do it. Harvey Weinstein, connected now officially with Jeffrey Epstein in these documents that have been released by the court. And there's an important factor to this. There are dates now. And that means that we know when these things happened, and we know who was working for Harvey Weinstein when it did. Here's the latest. This is out of NDTV.com, NDTV World. The documents include a handwritten note dated 2005 that mentions Weinstein's name, indicating that he attempted to reach Epstein at around 10:20 a.m. in March 2005. She had on the phone Mr. Harvey Weinstein, the note said. According to reports, Epstein and Weinstein were close associates. It goes on to talk about the book that had already detailed the sort of grime and disgusting behavior and criminality that Jeffrey Epstein and Harvey Weinstein had engaged in. The difference is that book didn't have the date that was linked to this. And that date is very important when it comes to entertainment, right? We all know that Harvey Weinstein, not a good person. We know that Jeffrey Epstein, not a good person. Most of us out there who have paid attention know that this is linked to a lot of global elites, and it's really, really depraved behavior at a large scale. But when it comes to Star Wars and Disney, here's what we didn't know. We didn't know if Leslie Headland, the current director, showrunner of The Acolyte, if she was the assistant, the personal assistant to Harvey Weinstein at the time that he was in cahoots with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, we do. Take a look at this. This is the resume for her out of Rotten Tomatoes. And you'll notice at the top, by the way, her highest rated project she's ever worked on, 68%. Lowest rated, 56%, seems to indicate to me that there was never a reason for this woman to be hired. We're going to talk about the strangeness of that in just a moment. In 2003, she, being Leslie Headland, began a 4-year stint as assistant to producer Harvey Weinstein, an experience that informed her 2008 play Assistants, about a group of young people working for a tyrannical boss. My personal opinion, that's a way for her to abdicate the sins of having worked for the man. Going back to this, though, again, 2005. When did she work for him? According to Rotten Tomatoes, 2003 to 2007. If the dots get connected, if more documents get released, although we here in this video are not alleging any wrongdoing by anybody officially, everybody deserves their day in court. So fair enough. But if you're Disney right now, you are facing down a massive PR disaster should more documents come out and should her name show up. And at this point, she is in very close proximity. You already have the Rey movie sitting as a disaster. Now it could potentially get much worse for Star Wars. Michelle, I want to go to you first on your thoughts on the depraved behavior. And then Script, we're going to come to you in just a moment and find out what was so bizarre about the way that Miss Headland was brought on board with Lucasfilm and with her project. Michelle?
Yeah, so the depraved behavior on all of them.
Good luck with that one. You're going to need an hour. Come
Yes,
on.
yeah. I mean, I think we know with Epstein, with Weinstein, I mean, they just were truly despicable, evil people, is what it seems.
They had a lot of friends.
Yes, and it makes sense why they're friends. Birds of a feather flock together. I mean, it
Hmm.
makes sense. But as far as Leslie Headland is concerned, yeah, I agree with what you said about that movie because I've never seen her talk the way, say, a true victim of a situation talks. When, say, maybe a young woman went into Weinstein, they didn't know and they were caught off guard and they were truly a victim. She has never seemed that way. In fact, it's almost as if they've just all tried to sweep under the rug the fact that she worked for an absolute monster for 4 years and had to know what was going on and really never speaks out against it. So that doesn't give me, that doesn't tell me too much good about Leslie Headland's character on a personal level either. When it seems to not have bothered her at all, quite frankly.
Michelle, I wasn't going to show this. Then you went there, so we'll go there. Harvey Weinstein's former personal assistant writes Tell All Play. This by Aubrey D'Arminio. We'll go with that. Apologies on the pronunciation. Published February 28th, 2012, so before everything goes down. Entertainment Weekly. Take a look at the first words. Leslie Headland loves Harvey Weinstein, despite having worked as his personal assistant. And he most likely loves her back. Just saying. So yeah, exactly. 100%. There's an adjustment to the narrative after everything goes down, but it's hard for me to believe, although I can't say for sure, it's hard for me to believe that the people who'd be in the most close proximity to these individuals, they just had to have known. There's no way that you wouldn't know what's going on. Script. I want to go to you now because you have knowledge that is so important, and that's why I'm thankful that you were able to join us today. I know it was a tough maneuvering of your schedule to get in here. The folks out there, they're going to be better off for you having been here. Script, explain to us what was strange about the way in which Leslie Headland came onto the Star Wars project.
Well, what was strange is that in March of 2020, 3 months after The Rise of Skywalker hit theaters and had its, how can you say, declined performance, even though it crossed $1 billion worldwide, there was a state of the TV industry memo that went out with regards to the pandemic that had just struck. This would be on the 26th of March when things started actually getting really moving. And what was kind of fascinating is that the Disney affiliated companies such as ABC and Disney and Buena Vista all put out, even in addition to Disney Plus, all put out a statement saying they're not officially shutting down buying, but acknowledging that they are far more focused on salvaging their current projects, and it may not be the best time to take new projects to them. So they're basically saying we're closing our doors.
Right, and this was not the same as other studios, right? Other studios had scaled it way back, but they had not completely closed off the opportunities.
If they were looking at different avenues to explore, like the thing that occurred with the pandemic is it didn't stop development, and that's the development on the paper side of things, getting the logistics, getting the screenplays written, taking assignments, doing pitches by Zoom, things that were normal par for the course at that time anyways, especially with how the internet has advanced over the last few decades. A lot of screenwriters, producers, if they couldn't do an in-person meeting, they would set up a Zoom. So this didn't really affect them or impact them or their process. But for some strange reason, Disney, the only studio out of the entire bunch, put out a memo with this state of the industry with regards to the pandemic, stating, we're not really going to be taking any pitches for the time being. We're going to fix the stuff that's happening right now. We've now admitted that we have to solve the problems that we're facing with our franchises. Specifically, they're focusing on Star Wars at this point because at the time Marvel was not in any dire straits, and it was very peculiar because we've never heard of this before. We've never heard of a studio saying no, we're not going to take new ideas. Now we are very well experienced in knowing that Disney does not really seek outside input or outside feelers when it comes to looking for new talent for either directors or writers or producers to pitch them stuff. They always do stuff internally, and if they have assignments, they will reach out, but they usually reach out through other proxies, which means somebody at the company already knows somebody that hasn't worked for Disney before, but they have a strong relationship with them or some type of relationship with them that they think they would be a good fit for this project. It's not really like a cold call, so to speak, in regards to some like agents at CAA. If they don't know any, if they're a new agent at CAA and they have a hot talent and they don't know any at Disney, Disney's not going to take them unless they get a referral from another agent at CAA that has worked with Disney before. Like unless Brian Lord himself walks into the office and says, "Hey, one of my reps down here has this hot new screenwriter who fit the Disney mold. You're going to meet with them." That's probably going to be the only real way that's going to happen for a new and up and coming outside source. So it was really threw everyone for a loop that, wait, we can't have our representation, especially ones with connections to Disney, pitched to Disney for projects that they have. They're focusing on just trying to fix the mess. Well, can't you fix the mess by getting some new voices in there to help, identify the problem and workshop ideas around it? So it was very, very strange that on this announcement, that was Disney's hand. That's what they played to the rest of the industry.
And yet, Leslie Headland was brought in during that exact same time, out of the blue. And where I'd like to go, Culture, you have been waiting in the wings, biting at the chomping at the bit. Take a look at this. Here is the IMDb page for Leslie Headland. And I want just to add to the bizarre nature of what Script Doctor has just talked about. Let's see if Leslie Headland is the sort of person that pops out at you as someone at Lucasfilm, in the midst of the pandemic, as Disney has stopped receiving any input from third parties out there who might want to work with them, that she, above all people, had to have been hired for her resume. Russian Doll, Pink and Blue, Almost Family, Finding the A-Hole, Heathers, Cleansed, Sleeping with Other People, apropos, Assistance, Bachelorette. Does anything here scale up, Culture, to the level of, we got to have her, she is exactly who needs to be over an entire Star Wars show. She knows exactly what she's doing in the sci-fi space opera space.
Well, nothing that in her resume would suggest that she's capable of handling any kind of a project like that. Well,
she is capable of some projects, Culture. They just have to do with Weinstein.
Sure. I mean, yeah, as a former personal assistant to a reprehensible human being, yeah, she's got plenty of experience at that, and we're probably going to shed some light on just how much experience she has at that. But if you look at a little foreshadowing there, audience, but she, of all those projects, probably the best thing she did was Russian Dolls. Probably likely more because the actress that was in that did a lovely job. But she didn't demonstrate anything other than the ability to beg Queen Kathy for an opportunity to be in Star Wars. And if you've seen that video clip, it still exists. There's another video clip out there where she talks about, all of the things that are Hollywood buzzes, like, gender specific recruiting for different jobs and things like that.
Culture, do you think that Kathleen Kennedy hired her out of sympathy for her begging? I mean, that's not the way that I would typically see someone being hired, to run an entire show. I wonder. There's speculation territory.
There's little to suggest that it didn't manifest itself that way.
Well, do you think there was something gained by Kathleen Kennedy by hiring somebody who would have been the personal assistant to Harvey Weinstein?
Well,
speculation. Don't go too far, but
I think that that, and mixed with the fact that she's very much a series of check boxes, and it clearly was begging to put representation into Star Wars. I mean, that's what her entire existence is about to her, is that she's spoken very specifically about that, why it's very important to put representation in the Star Wars universe. And she has claims to be a super fan. She loves all the Star Wars.
These are the ways that you wash the sins away in Hollywood, right?
Yeah. And
this is the new baptism, is to come out and say, DEI, ESG, forgive me for all.
Well, and one of the early things going back into 2022, if I remember correctly, is that she intentionally went out and hired a writer that had never watched or been even familiar with Star Wars at all.
Right.
So,
we would never do that again, though, Culture. I mean, look at the Rey movie. She's hired a competent director there.
Yeah.
Someone who loves Star Wars.
Yeah. Look, I would say that that she may know where some bodies are buried, and maybe that's another reason why she is employed by Kathleen Kennedy.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. But let me open it up to the entire panel.
Yeah.
You all decide who, whoever feels they should speak, please speak. What I'm looking at here is that finally we have dates, and we're probably going to get more dates. This is just, we've only had, I think, 3 document releases so far, right? 3 document dumps. This thing's going to go until January 21st. Disney has got to be sweating like you can't believe about a potential PR nightmare, disaster that they're going to have to face again with Star Wars if, over the next 2 weeks, more gets released. If her name pops up, and we're not saying that it will, but if her name pops up, oh my gosh. If there's anything in the documents that says that Harvey Weinstein's assistant called Jeffrey Epstein's assistant, then oh my gosh. I don't know what you do then at that point with a show that is connected at that level then, And so this is an unforced error. I don't know how many unforced errors they can have, but this is 100% an unforced error. There was never a need for them to put themselves in this situation except for what culture is talking about. I'm always looking at risk assessment and at risk analysis. What was the risk in hiring Leslie Headland all of a sudden when they're not hiring anybody to come out from the outside and come in and pitch something to them? What's the risk there? Well, there's a great risk. So I don't know what the benefit was to them. It doesn't seem to me, based on her resume, that it was her immense creativity. I don't know what the benefit was to Kathleen Kennedy. I don't know if the C-suite was on board with Kathleen Kennedy. I don't know if it was a rogue decision. I don't know any of that. But this is they're in a position now, 110% of their own making. Panel, if you're Disney right now, what is your pre-made solution to this issue if the documents come out and her name ever appears in them? What do you do?
I think they'll do what they've already been doing. They'll just ignore it and move on. Because again, why would you hire her to begin with? You just literally ignored. I guess again, they just say she's a victim of the situation, but nothing really suggests that. It suggests, again, you pulled up that article that she seemed to like working with Harry Weinstein or Weinstein.
Harvey
so
Weinstein.
It's just,
she loved him. Let's go back to it. Ready? Leslie Headland loves Harvey Weinstein. She loves him. She loves him. She loves him. She loves him.
We're supposed to believe that? I mean, it's Hollywood's assistants. Everybody in Hollywood loves everybody. That's par for the course.
Script is right, though. I'll give that to you, Script. Until it was the time to make the switch, and suddenly he was Satan, and suddenly everybody knew, but everybody was scared to talk about it. Everybody before that loved him because that's the way the system works, right? You have to follow the official narrative. But
it's not a narrative. Hold on, Pro. It's not a narrative to love everyone in Hollywood. It's basically looking at the people that you meet on the way up, you also meet on the way down. So you don't burn any bridges. That's why they do it. They don't do it for any other reason other than that.
But wait a minute, Script. That I'll take that to in normal situations. If you are someone who has been privy to colossal, coordinated criminality, if you have any inkling, and now everybody says, well, it was an unspoken secret. We all knew, but we couldn't talk about it, right? If that's the kind of creature you come into proximity with, I say burn the damn bridge. That's what I say. Now, maybe that's not the way the system works, but that's the way my mind works on this.
Well, that's if you know about it for sure, because here's the other part too.
Yes.
You're looking at an industry that's full of rumors. And one thing Disney is most definitely going to do right now is jump ahead with plausible deniability. Because unless they can prove that Leslie Headland was in the room during the acts that Harvey Weinstein committed, she's got plausible deniability. All she has to do is make the appointment on behalf of Harvey Weinstein. When he says, hey, I'm meeting, this is the actor I'm meeting, set up a room, we're going to just do an informal thing. You book it. You make all the arrangements. That's all she'll need to know. That's all she'll ever want to know. Most assistants don't want to know the details in the event of such an outcome could be the case.
Well,
can I ask?
Yes, go for it.
Have we ever gotten because I get what Script's saying, but have we ever gotten like a video of Leslie Headland just like in shock of, oh my gosh, I didn't know any of this was going on. Those poor women, yada, yada, yada. Have we ever even gotten that from her though? It just feels like she, for whatever reason, is brushed under the rug and no one cares.
Right. I mean, it's kind of like, if you have a major, let's say it's the mob, for example. And I think with Harvey Weinstein and Jeffrey Epstein, it's okay to compare them to the mob.
Mhm.
If you've got the mob, you would think the secretary below the head of the mob, you're going to look at them. You're going to look at them legally. And I'm not suggesting that Leslie Headland did anything of a criminal nature. I'm just saying that if you're his personal assistant, and now that we know the dates, I'm saying that if Harvey Weinstein is going to Jeffrey Epstein Island, that's going to raise some red flags to me. And I might be, if I'm in that position, I might be the kind of person who would be calling the FBI and saying, hey, I hear some bad things about said island. My boss is there. Just a heads up, just a tip. I don't know. Culture, am I really, really off on this? You be the arbiter here.
No.
No, you won't be the arbiter.
No. What bothers me the most in part of your question there is that she had to know.
Why?
She had to know everything that was going on. I suggested prior.
It's a good question. Why did she have to know?
Because personal assistants pretty much drive executives' lives all the time. They're being called on. They're being called
behest of the executives' lives. They don't schedule things for the executives. The executives tell them what to schedule.
But if that schedule includes a 5-day stay on Epstein Island, that you have to be, given the connections and given the level we're talking about, you've got to be really, really naive if you're someone scheduling a trip to Epstein Island and you don't go, oh, I know what goes on there. I mean, it's plausible, and that's plausible deniability, and that's why she's doing a Star Wars show. But for the average person out there listening to this video, I think they're gonna find it difficult to say, yeah, I think she just thought they were going for a fun day in the sun.
On more than one, in a hotel bedroom, sure, but
because it'd be no different from. I mean, listen, when it comes to how Hollywood functions, it'd be no different than Harvey Weinstein having Leslie Headland book him a flight to Johnny Depp's island. Paper, she would be able to look at that as exactly the same thing, and she could justify it as exactly the same thing. Remember, they're not going to come at this with a soft defense if accusations are levied against her.
Right. Well, I agree with you on the defense. They're either going to try to ignore it, or they would try to, brush it under the carpet and hide it and play the plausibility issue here. But the other thing I think could happen is, if there is something that comes out, I think if there's a strong connection made, you might have the same kind of reaction they had with Jonathan Majors. I don't know that, but I don't know what you do if there's already something in the can and you need it to come out because you've got nothing else for Disney Plus for the year. And I also don't know what's going to come out, but there's definitely a connection here between two very large criminal conspiracy groups, Epstein and Weinstein. It's not just two men. It's two men with massive connections all throughout various industries at the highest levels of the global elites. And you've got someone who was the personal assistant scheduling the stuff for Weinstein, who happens to have been picked up with very little reason that I can find to run an entire Star Wars show out of the blue during a time when they were not hiring anybody. All of it put together, although none of it is absolute, all of it put together, a preponderance of the evidence leads me to say, this reeks. Like, this just, something smells wrong on this thing.
Well, and one of the biggest problems and the reason that I make assumptions script is because in many different news locations, including not necessarily a reputable one, Salon and many others, and this is something I covered back in 2020 right after I started my channel, was the fact that there was an assistant that was called out by many accusers of Weinstein, a personal assistant of his that was helping essentially facilitate his bad deeds willingly, fully in concert with. So, and there are many articles written on this and this shadowy assistant. So I'm not beyond, it's not beyond me to speculate, who those series of women were that worked for Weinstein and helped.
Well, it makes you, Weinstein at that level is selecting people for whatever purpose he thinks is going to help him most. Whatever that says about the people that he was hiring to that level, right? We're not talking about someone who's getting his coffee. We're not talking about a barista. If we're talking about baristas, we're talking about Kathleen Kennedy. That's not really the focus right now. What we're talking about is someone who manages his day-to-day. And Why would he want to select somebody to manage his day by day? What would he be looking for? We're not trying to impugn Leslie Headland. It's just kind of the point now where we got to talk about this. And the connection now with the year in the documents means she's the assistant, right? It's not another assistant during that time. She's the assistant. So, folks, we're going to wrap up. But I want to say this.
I have.
I'm coming to you, Michelle. That was actually my plan, was to give you the last word. But I just want to say, as we go to the last word, folks, when you do your comments down below, be kind to all of our guests. We are talking about something extremely spicy. It is necessary, I think, to start having this conversation, especially because there is another PR disaster at the threshold of Disney. If this thing grows, there was never a need for it. But I want to go to Michelle for the last word. Michelle, what are your thoughts on everything that we've said? Help us wrap this thing up in a way that's apropos for the level of conversation.
Yes, two things that I have on kind of wrapping this up with Leslie Headland. One, because as Script points out, I'm sure there are so many rumors that float around Hollywood. But the one with Harry Weinstein, I mean, they had been going on since we knew it was very well known that Brad Pitt went in there and confronted him over Gwyneth Paltrow. Like, stories have been going on for years, to the point that even if you don't necessarily believe them, when you become his secretary, are your eyes not kind of open to be watching? Like, are these rumors true or are they not true? And as a woman, and women can be very perceptive, are you not paying attention to how these women are exiting his room ever? Are you not? It's just very hard for me to believe she didn't have any clue what was going on. And then again, if she didn't somehow know what was going on, why is there never, why does she never seem to be in shock or in horror of what had happened? Why does she just seem so cool, so fine? And just, again, it just all feels like it gets swept under the rug for Leslie Headland.
Those are all great questions. And part of the answer might be the fact that at that time when Harvey Weinstein was committing these vile acts, this was part of the transactional nature of Hollywood. And
I get that. Yeah. But what about now? Now's the time to throw him under the rug fully.
Right. If he's going under the bus, then the people who work with him.
Just trying to keep her head down and not the connections being made to her. Because again, even though she's a personal assistant, she's not going to be in the lobby of the hotel room of that meeting. She's going to be at the office, taking calls, confirming schedules, things of that nature. So she's not going to ever see who this actress is that has gone in, and then what the reaction coming out. That's probably going to be another assistant of Harvey Weinstein's, possibly maybe his driver or a security guard, but not someone in the position of like a Leslie Headland.
And folks, we'll leave it there because it's now time for you all to decide. You've heard the arguments, both sides. I think we have given every angle of this that we can in about half an hour. I think it's great that Script Doctor came on with your fantastic analysis of this and shedding light on the way the industry worked. Culture and Michelle, of course, coming at it from another angle. And I'm sitting here just looking at this as this is an unforced error. This never had to happen to Disney. Why do you keep doing this? You know, men have to be made uncomfortable in a men-dominated genre or franchise. And at the same time, on the other side of the house, you got this situation. It's like, how many of these can you possibly have? Kathleen Kennedy must be a magnet for this sort of thing. It's just a magnet. It's amazing. Folks, drop a comment down below. Let us know your thoughts. But again, be appropriate, be respectful in the comments. You can tell the truth without being malicious or vile. Try to do it the way we do it. We would surely appreciate that because it does affect us and the channel. And up until, I don't know, 5 minutes ago, we couldn't talk about these sorts of things. If you ever brought up an island, your video would do nothing or be gone or something like that. That's changed with the documents, and now we can talk about this stuff. So we are talking about this stuff. It's difficult to talk about this stuff, but help us out with great comments. Also, like, share, subscribe. When you click it, you stick it to the algorithms. It's the notification bell, and drop a comment, as we said. Folks, that's a wrap for today. Check out Culture Casino, Force of Light, and Script Doctor. All incredible content. And if you paid attention for just 5 seconds, you know that each and every one of them, highly competent and great value they'll bring to you if you just follow them. All right, folks, wherever you are and whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.
Floral, it's time for you to walk the plank. What? Why?
Cuz you haven't subscribed to WDW Pro yet. Nor bookmark thatparkplace.com on your web browser to get great articles from great contributors.
What?